It's Doug Myers. I'll let him do his introduction. First of all, we are streaming live to the internet. I want to thank anybody sitting out there watching us in cyberspace. Thanks to FoxPro and the Coyote Cam, FoxPro Cam. They've donated a lot of stuff to us, some calls and stuff we're going to give away here tonight and during the hunt. Anybody who signs up for the hunt is automatically entered to win one of 8 calls this year. So, and just for signing up. Tonight we're going to do 2. We're going to give 2 away tonight as well. We're going to go around at halftime and give everybody a ticket for a drawing that we'll draw at the end of the night. And we got some other prizes and stuff here, some hats from the Sportsmans Club. The PA Outdoor News donated some stuff, some subscriptions to give away. So I'm going to turn it over to Doug, let him do his thing, and thanks for coming.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, guys, and welcome. I appreciate Cresson Sportsmans again having me out here. I think it's my 3rd year out here, and I want to thank them for taking the time and doing this for you, because this is your seminar. I'm only here to answer some questions, provide some information, hopefully some knowledge, save you some errors. And since I was here last year, I've had some success and some failures again, which we all do. And so I'm going to share some of those with you tonight, and hopefully through my failures and my successes, you can become more successful and have less failures. And eventually narrow it down to where we can have a more equitable time in the woods and in the field. So at any time, if you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand. I will acknowledge you. Just don't blurt it out. And I'm sure if you're thinking the question, someone else also is thinking the same question. So feel free to ask that. I have a big flaw, and that is sometimes having done this enough times, I assume or I cover over a lot of things that are remedial or fundamental that need to be covered, but I fail to remember them because I've been down that road and I forget that I was also once a first-time hunter, or have never yet tasted success, or have had success but didn't know it was success. So at any time you have a question, feel free to raise your hand, okay? I work for Quaker Boy Game Calls as a pro staff member on the out at Orchard Park, New York. And this year we lost our founder and leader, Dick Kirby. He finally succumbed to old age and called up yonder. So I want to thank him for all he's done for the company and what he's done for me. And they make a great bunch of calls. I do a lot of mouth calls. I've had a lot of success with mouth calls. I have a lot of success with electronic calls. I've done both. Tonight we're going to deal with coyotes, fox, some bobcats. Well, we can ask for raccoons. You know, any kind of information, any sort of predator that comes to a call is what we're going after. I am an opportunistic caller, and that means that if I'm calling for coyotes and a gray fox runs up, I don't hold off on my shot. I buy a fur ticker's license as well as a regular firearms general license. If I'm calling red fox and a coyote comes in, I don't let him get away without letting them know that I've seen him. Sometimes I don't kill him because I don't always shoot as straight as I'd like to, but you know, we know how that goes. But I do not let him get away. So that being said, if a predator comes in and it's predator season, and I take advantage of the situation. So a lot of times what you do at fox calling is going to be also into the coyote call. If you do a coyote call, it may also be something that's going to call it a bobcat. If you're calling bobcats and coyotes, you may also put the same schooling into calling in bears or mountain lions if you decide to go out west and do a little other hunting. But predators are predators. Generally, when I'm more prepared and have a little time to get here, I stop and get a nice candy bar at the store, and I always ask for a volunteer to come up. And generally, you always see some young person, oh, I'll take it, you know, and they come up, and I ask them a couple simple questions. Are your eyes in front of your head? And most everybody here says, yes, my eyes are in front of my head because I've seen all your faces and I see all your eyes. That makes you also a predator. A lot of folks, hunters, people I've hunted with, they fail to forget that they are a predator. They're also one of the top of the food chain. You are actually no different than what you're trying to call in, other than they are more instinctual than we are. We've had our instincts dulled down. So when your eyes are in front of your head, you eat meat. You have incisors and you tear and cut. If you're vegetarian, so be it, but you also eat plants. Coyote and fox are no different. A large part of their diet is plants, nuts, berries, fruits, and then also the other part of their diet is going to be the meats, the carrion, which is dead meat, or young birds, eggs, stuff of that nature, protein-based. Now, that being said, with 0-degree weather outside, full of snow out there, it's very hard to find fresh strawberries. It's very hard to find choke cherries. Right now the grapes are all shriveled up. They're called raisins. Okay? So it's very hard to do a watermelon call on a call. It's very hard to do a tomato call. So what we're going to deal with is obviously the meat source, because the higher protein source, and in cold weather, it's the primary food diet we're working with now. If you're out there in the summertime, you can go out and sit up in someone's garden, you're very apt to kill a gray fox or a coyote or a red fox coming in someone's garden, or a strawberry patch or a blueberry patch that are getting ripe. I've seen fox get up and he just walk through and suck up black cherries when they're ripe in November, last week of October. So they eat all of that, but again, we can't do those kind of calls, and until FoxPro comes out with a falling choke cherry call, it's going to be hard to duplicate that. So we're going to work primarily on food sources. A lot of guys I've dealt with, and the guys I've given seminar to, their biggest hang-up, what I see, is lack of confidence, first of all. And the confidence is because they haven't often called in what they were desiring to call in. And that means they get into a coyote hunt, and they said, I've been hunting coyotes for 2.5 weeks, every morning, every evening. I've not called in a coyote yet. But I'll ask them, if you're out there calling, have you heard dogs barking? Oh yeah, I've had dogs bark, or I've had coyotes bark and howl back at me. I've had an owl come in and land behind the tree. I've had crows come over top of my head and circle me. Or I had a hawk come fly over top in the middle of the morning, buzz my head and land in a tree 20 yards away. That's success. Okay? A good example is I had guys go out and with FoxPro, they have a fawn distress call on their remote control call, or if you have a Johnny Stewart call, or any sort of electronic call. If you're playing fawn distress in August, and all what happens is you turn the call on and out runs a deer, and runs around the call 10 times, runs back in the woods. That's success, because that deer believed it was a fawn in distress. You can't call in a coyote if one isn't there. Okay? You can't make them materialize. If you went into the Galleria Mall and took Randy Anderson into the Galleria Mall and set him up in a chair, I'll bet you my life savings he couldn't call a coyote through those front doors. And yet he's a premier outdoorsman and one of the best in the industry of bringing a coyote in with vocalizations. But there's none there inside the Galleria Mall. You know what I'm saying? If you're on the middle of the runway on the airport and you're trying to do turkey yelps in spring gobbler season, good luck trying to get one to come in strutting zone in the distance. You may be a world-class caller, but you know what? You're in the middle of the runway where there isn't one going to show up and they can't get to you, or there's a fence around you. Your woodsmanship is always going to trump or outweigh your blowing of your calls or playing of your calls. You don't have to be a trumpet player. You don't have to be Louis Armstrong to be able to play a predator call. They're very simple. And I like to do this. This is a screaming rabbit call from Quaker Boys called Killer Pipes. They come in a 2-pipe set. It's a mid-range and a long-range call. And simply all you do is blow in a call. Calls come in three or four different ways. This is a closed reed call. It's a little mylar reed on a metal mouthpiece, and you blow air across it, and it vibrates, making a raspy noise, and it comes out the end. If you change this call from here and put it into here, exact same call. Put it into this kind of tube, exact same voice in all three calls, but the acoustics change on the outside chamber. So if you have a call that you don't have confidence in, or if you have a call you haven't had success with it, trust me, it's going to work. It's just a matter of time and being in the right situation at the right time. We're going to get into that a little bit later on as in habitat. The second type of call is an open reed call. The downfall of this call and a closed reed call is I blow it now. I'm blowing warm, moist air across a metal reed. Now, when it's 0 outside and the call is hanging on your neck, it's going to freeze up. Exactly. The benefit of an open reed call is it's inside your pie hole, 98.6 degrees. You can do whip pups. This is a Quaker Boy call. Comes in 3: alpha male, female invitational, and also a coyote pup. All you do is blow it. For your rabbits, if you bite down, it goes higher. If you bite and slide, you can get a bark and howl. Calls are very versatile. This call is called a super screamer. It has a bite down type wing system on it and a mylar reed. Again, you're putting warm, moist air over it, so it can freeze up. But since it's versatility, because you bite down hard, it gets high. Loosen up your bite. Some guy said, well, how do I get one of those? You may already have one. If you have a crow call in this situation, if you have an elk call, it's the same call. You can work the call. If you're out there calling elk in Colorado somewhere and you see coyotes going by, man, I wish I had a call. Just bite down and squeeze and blow on it. I did a seminar here the other week down at Tub Mill Run. The guy said, well, what's that sound supposed to duplicate? Or what's it trying to replicate? Doesn't matter. Anything squealing works. Anything can distress works. It's an easier food source. It's a predator. Would you want to chase a deer through the woods or shoot one with a rifle out your back window at 100 yards from a nice heated little house? Probably shoot it from the house heated because it's easier. Or do you want to get a Bowie knife and chase it for 6 weeks? Do you tire it down and jump on its back and take a chance of getting injured? If it's an easier hurt meal, it's an easier meal to get a hold of. The open reed calls, likening back to them, you can do your barks and howls, you can do rabbit screams, you can do woodpecker distress, you can do all kind of bird sounds. As long as it's squealing, it works. Last year in archery season, I had a coyote come by about 150 yards out, and I went, just kissed on my lips. I had no call with me. It didn't respond. I went to my hand. It looked up. Come in the beeline. I shot it about 20 yards. From 150 yards to 20 yards, no louder than that. You go. A red fox can hear a mouse squeak, not a scream, a squeak at 30 yards with ease. I have these little rodent squealers here. This is a new call called chompers, again it's by Quaker Boy. I've been using this a lot this past spring. They came out new this past year. What I like about them is there's 3 calls on one. They're about $20 for all 3. It weighs nothing. No matter what sport, whether you're hunting waterfowl, deer, turkey, whatever, they take up no room in your vest. You can carry all 3 calls. And they go in color coordinate. The darker is close range, the lighter is farther away. You go from the dark to a rodent, to a mid-range, to a long range, clear one. It's very simple, just blow air in. That's why I'm not sure how simple that can be. You can take any call, it's not hard to do. If I can blow it with my nostril with just air, you can blow it with your mouth. I can do it back here, but it's short, brief calls. You don't want to borrow my calls. They can be used anywhere at any time. A lot of the time, I want to have a realistic sounding call. Instead of just blowing air, I shorten up because a rabbit's lungs are not that large. So I make it shorter. If you let your diaphragm vibrate, gives it more realism, a little more of a realist sound. It's dying, it's getting injured, it can't get a full breath. If you say, well, I have emphysema, black lung, don't work too well with that, and my call keeps freezing up, I don't want to buy 3 or 4 more calls. I understand, we're all on a budget, mama's at home saying no more money for predator hunting until you start paying for it. You can simply get a little screamer call like this. Now you have a closed reed call. There's no fear of overblowing the call with long, heavy bursts because your lungs are larger than a rabbit's lungs because they're set up to be small bursts. And no warm, moist air, no freeze up. You can pull it out of here. Same call, just using the bellows system to work it for it. So your calls are very, very versatile. You say, well, I have one of these calls, but I'd like to get one of these. Just make yourself a little set of bellows systems. Get a little air pump, attach it to the back, and blow it that way. If you say, well, I have the rabbit screamer, but I want to get a coaxing call, something to get in that last distance. I'm getting a fox in, a red fox comes in, hangs up 100 yards. I want to get him to come that last 60, 70 yards. You can go kissing to a rodent squeal to get him to come closer. Or you can jump up to another call like this, or tear apart one of your cat's toys and pull the voice out of it. This call is a metal voice jammed to a deer antler, so it goes a little higher pitch because I wedged it in there pretty tight. And I wedged one of those little mouse squeakers in the side. Amazingly, tonight,